Okay. I really appreciate that it's been now several weeks that we've been working on finishing off this Go Show, the Heritage of the Ultimate Law of Life and Death. And we're going to finish this lecture, Commentaries on Buddhahood, tonight. So I was going to read some other things to press through to make sure that happened. We may go a little long as a result. But before I start reading from the lecture again, I want to read from two supplemental Gosho that kind of set the stage for the part of the lecture that we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to read first from on the treatment of illness. I believe it is the treatment of illness. I'm going to read from, it's the very end. Don't worry, you can look it up or not look up. It's page 1114. Right. And the very last paragraph, full paragraph on 114 on the right side there. Okay, where it says, the great teacher Tiantai. Okay, you with me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start reading that because I'm really only getting over here to all this orange, right? That can't be the right. You got reply to the nun something. No. Treatment of illness, dear. Page. Are you volume 2?
No, it's volume 1.
Okay,
Okay, I can find
okay, it's page 1111.
Okay, I don't have the 2.
Okay, this is volume 1. No, this
So,
is. If it is volume 1, then you're just on the wrong page.
okay,
1114.
1114. Okay. 1114. I
Okay.
will find. Go ahead.
Don't give her so much pressure.
I'll start reading. I'm going to start reading on the last paragraph. 1114. There you go. There it is. Right there. Okay, I'm going to start reading right there.
From here, the
Okay,
great
great.
teacher Tentai.
Okay.
Cute.
Okay. The great teacher. This is from on the treatment of illness. It's on page 114. Like I said, it's the last paragraph, the end. On 114 it says, the great teacher Tentai in his great concentration and insight described the 10 objects of meditation and the 10 meditations, but no one after him practiced them. These were practices for the middle day of the law, right? He says, in the days of Myolo and Dingyo, some people practiced them to an extent, but encountered few difficulties because there were no powerful opponents. The 3 obstacles and 4 devils described in great concentration and insight will not arise to obstruct those who practice the provisional sutras, because they're no longer the correct teaching in the latter day, right? But now each and every one has arisen to confront me. They are even more powerful than the 3 obstacles and 4 devils that Tiantai, Dengyo, and the others had to face. There are 2 ways of perceiving the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. One is theoretical and the other is actual. Okay? And that's what this whole Gosho is about. Actual Ichinen Sanzen in reality. That is the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death, is actual Ichinen Sanzen. All right? So he's saying there are 2 ways of perceiving the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. One is theoretical and the other actual. What Tentai and Dingyo practiced was theoretical. But what I practice now is actual. Okay, so what you practice now is actual. Okay, it's not theoretical, Ichinen Sanzen. Right. And it can only be practiced. This practice can only be practiced in the latter day of the law. And in the latter day of the law, the entire Lotus Sutra has become theoretical. You understand that, right? Okay, so he says, because what I practice is superior, the difficulties attending it are that much greater. The doctrine of Tiantai and Dingyo was 3,000 realms in a single moment of life of the theoretical teaching, while mine is that of the essential teaching. The essential teaching for the latter day, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, not the last 14 chapters, pardon me. These 2 are as different as heaven is from earth. I referred to that a week or so ago. I said they're completely different. Right. You should grasp this deeply when the time comes to face death. Okay, so the true understanding is available for you to grasp throughout your life. You don't have to wait until the last moment of your life to grasp this understanding. But you should, as you approach the end of your life, or what you might anticipate to be the last third of your life or so, that you really begin to try and have a more profound understanding of the teaching and where it's been leading you for all these years. If you've practiced from the time you were in your 20s or 30s, this would probably be sometime in your 50s or 60s at the earliest, before your brain starts to think about, oh shit, I'm getting closer to death. Okay, that does actually occur once you realize you're not a young person anymore. Okay, you become more sober in the way you look at things. And it's at that point in time much of this wisdom can come forth, because really this wisdom doesn't come forth without you seeking it. Okay, this doesn't just come out as like some sort of an automatic thing, like a bowel movement. You ate something, so it's going to come out. No, all right, it's really got to be sought after and perceived, and the ability to perceive it is without exception available to anybody and everybody. Okay, but the only way for anybody or everybody to have the capacity to perceive what's being said is through faith. Okay, otherwise you're never going to get there. All right, so I've read that last part of the treatment of illness, and now I'm going to go to page 310. Or 311, however you want to look at it. It is 311, actually, excuse me. All right, 311, first full paragraph again. Starting there, you know, 311 with me is where it says, as the Buddha tells us.
Yeah.
Right, okay. As the Buddha tells us, we should regard as correct teachers and good teachers those who honestly discard the doctrines of the four flavors in the three teachings, the Hinayana and Provisional Mahayana Sutras, that were expounded as expedient means, as well as the Nimbutsu, true words, Zen and precept schools, and the sutras upon which they rely, and expound Myoho Rengekyo, the one great reason for which the Buddha Buddhas, plural, appear in the world. As for myself, now obviously what did he say there? Discarding expedient means, because that's what he just described by name. Blow by blow by blow. When he's talking about Hinayana, Provisional Mahayana Sutras as expedient means, as well as Nimbutsu, yada yada yada. So he's saying everything that's preceded my teaching has been an expedient means in preparation for me to come in the fifth 500-year period, as is prophesied in the Lotus Sutra, and reveal the true teaching, the essential teaching for the latter day, which lasts how long?
Forever.
Forever, right? The Zoho and Shoho, the middle day, and Shoho and Zoho, the former and middle day, were only 1,000 years apiece, right? But Mappo is 10,000 years and beyond, okay? So what teaching would seem logical to be the greater of the two? The original one is the one that came second, because the capacity of the people would not have been, it took the 2,000 years of the former and middle day for these sages to appear, to create that segue from that expedient means understanding to the actual truth, okay? So, he says, as for myself, I, Nichiren, having been born in Japan in the first 500 years of the latter day of the law, have encountered the three powerful enemies and met with various types of calamity and trouble, just as the thus come one predicted would happen. Okay? So he's basically saying, if you do this, it's already in the sutra, you're going to meet obstacles. If you have not met obstacles, you have not really practiced the correct teaching. This is one of the things I would say about Nichiren Shoshu members going back to last week. You know, if you're not... I used to always feel bad because I always seem to have all these problems. Now, it's not until I really read what's going on. Yeah, but I was chanting my way out of all these problems, right? And then all these problems turned into benefits.
Right.
And then I got the opportunity to constantly be the one that got everything they chanted for. Because why? Because I told every damn person that I came into contact with about what I was experiencing and why. I was kind of fanatical about that. I didn't have a problem trying to shakabuku everybody, because I could do it in a way they weren't really offended, generally speaking. So he says, just as the thus come one predicted would happen, but without any thought from my person or my life, I chant Nam Myoho Rengekyo. I ask you consider with the utmost care whether I deserve to be called a correct teacher or an erroneous teacher, as the other guys that are opposing me right now are calling me. Each of the proponents of the various schools I have mentioned above declares that he is beyond all others, has grasped the meaning and is practicing the Lotus Sutra. But none of them have been exiled in the province of Izu as I was in the Kocho era, or exiled to the island of Sado as I was in the Brunei era, or led to the place of decapitation at Tasanakuchi, or faced the countless other difficulties that I have. If the sutra passages that predict such difficulties are true, then you should realize that I am the correct teacher, the good teacher, and that the scholar of the other schools are all erroneous teachers and evil teachers. In addition to these, there are a great many other passages in the sutras and treatises that make clear the distinction between these two types of teachers, the good and the bad. But I am sure you are already familiar with them, so I will not go into them here. Then he says his encouragement. How wondrous, to Saibrinbo, how wondrous that in your letter you say that from now on you will reject the erroneous teachers of our time and will rely entirely upon me as the correct teacher, the only teacher. Do you understand? I will not mix other teachers' teachings with yours, Master Nichiren. All right? When the thus come one Shakyamuni, our original teacher, appeared in the world in order to expound the Lotus Sutra, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the other worlds, like shadows and echoes, came forth and assisted him in his efforts to spread the teachings. Now it seems that they have appeared here in Japan as envoys of Shakyamuni, many treasures, and the Buddhas of the 10 directions to help me in my efforts to spread the teachings. The sutra says, I will send persons conjured up by magic to other lands to gather together assemblies to listen to the law. And I will also send monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen conjured up by magic to listen to the preaching of the law. These persons conjured up by magic will listen to the law, believe and accept it, and abide by it without volition. The monks who are spoken of in this passage refer to you. Therefore, when the sutra speaks of persons who listen to the law, believe and accept it, and abide by it without violation, you need look no further than yourself. How can there be any doubt about it? And then he goes, although the sutra speaks of those who, having heard the law, dwelled here and there in various Buddha lands, constantly reborn in company with their teachers, there are persons like the 3 groups of voice hearers. And I won't go on from there. But the bottom line is to realize that he's saying that the bodhisattvas of the earth will appear to uphold the teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo in the latter day. All right? So, tonight, the significance of tonight, and we're getting through this lecture so that we can read through one time more the complete Gosho for continuity rather than the way it's been segmented out in this. And then, and then we'll go into President Ikeda's lecture, which is it's a much more voluminous thing than this. Okay? So that's what we're trying to get to tonight. So starting on page 39 of Commentaries on Buddhahood, the Heritage of the Ultimate Law of Life. Let's start with great compassion to save all living beings and the karmic ties between mentor and disciple. From the Gosho. Nichiren has been trying to awaken all the people of Japan to faith in the Lotus Sutras so that they too can share the heritage and attain Buddhahood. But instead they have persecuted me in various ways and finally had me banished to this island. You have followed Nichiren, however, and met with sufferings as a result. It pains me deeply to think of your anguish. Gold can be neither burned by fire nor corroded or swept away by water, but iron is vulnerable to both. A worthy person is like gold, a fool like iron. You are the pure gold because you embrace the gold of the Lotus Sutra. The sutra states, just as among all the mountains Mount Sumera is foremost, so this Lotus Sutra is likewise. It also states the good fortune you gain thereby cannot be burned by fire or washed away by water. This is the important part I was trying to get to. It must be ties of karma from the distant past that have destined you to become my disciple at this time. Shakyamuni and many treasures certainly realized this truth. The sutra's statement, those persons who had heard the law dwelled here and there in various Buddha lands, constantly reborn in company with their teachers, cannot be false in any way. Okay? And so going on to page 40, and you can see I got this just like every paragraph is asterisked, okay? So this is really important because for a very long time, I kind of hold back sometimes saying what I know to be the truth. Because I feel like I lack the authority to make these comments so clear. But I'm going to tonight because the lecture is going to make those same comments. Okay, and it's going to say it, I can say it unequivocally, okay, that the comments that are about to be revealed here are absolutely true. I know it from my life. I've experienced it. This isn't theoretical to me. This is actual, okay? This is what Mr. Matsuoka taught me when I was a brand new member, okay? So the thing that I want to emphasize is that on many occasions I've explained to people as I tried to tell them about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. One of the things you have to realize is that there's no difference, and this Gosho talked about no difference between Shakyamuni, the Lotus Sutra, and you yourself, right? Then in the latter day it says it's Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nichiren Daishonin, yourself. So I never heard it from the perspective of it being pulled out of a Gosho. This was just what Mr. Matsuoka taught me. You know, Tom, you got to understand, it's really difficult. This is a really difficult concept, but you can't question it. You've got to just take it to heart and keep chanting until you understand it. There is zero difference. There is no difference between the Lotus Sutra and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. There is no difference between Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the Lotus Sutra, your own life, the life of Nichiren Daishonin, and the life of all other bodhisattvas of the earth. You're a bodhisattva of the earth, Tom. Oh. Okay, so please understand that when I've said when we did that thing, you know, how we practice Nichiren Buddhism and you know, live the Soka philosophy, I mentioned the fact that, I forgot my train of thought. I'm going to go back and just start reading it. Okay, starting on page, where'd it go? 40. All right. Faith based on the oneness of mentor and disciple is what actually enables us to receive the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death. So what does that first paragraph say? Faith based on the oneness of mentor and disciple is what actually enables us to receive the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death. What is that clarifying? This is a transmission, okay? This is a transmission. This isn't something that you make up on your own, okay? This is something that you actually do have a karmic relationship with individuals that will become teachers and help you manifest the wisdom to be able to perceive the essence, the nature of this statement, okay? So what he's basically saying here is faith based on the oneness of mentor and disciple. What does that mean? What's the oneness of mentor and disciple? Who's the disciple? We are. Who's the mentor?
We are. So going to be.
Exactly. All disciples become mentors. Who's the original mentor of Kuon Ganjo? We consider it to be Nichiren Daishonin, that was the purpose of Nichiren's advent in the 1200s in Japan, was to reveal the teaching that was ultimately always going to be revealed. Okay? So he's basically saying then that how then do you receive this understanding, this Buddhahood? Even though it's always existed in your life, because as I discussed with Kuon, he says it's not something that's not been improved on, something that's never been changed in any way, okay? But is being revealed as it has always existed, okay? But what is the process for revealing it?
To have faith.
Faith, but faith in what? You got to find a teacher, okay? You can't just, and you've got to accept the teacher as the original teaching, Nichiren, okay? And you've got to perceive the inseparability of your life and the life of the original teacher and the object of devotion and the Lotus Sutra and everything else that's been being discussed here, all right? Because that's the manner in which it actually makes sense. It makes complete, concrete sense, Okay? But the ability to perceive that thing that will become so clear only comes from you having developed your faith in the teaching of Nichiren. All right? You have to have faith in the teaching. So, faith based on the oneness, the inseparability, the equality of mentor and disciple, even though one is perceiving from the other. This is where we get back into the pitcher that fills each pitcher and never runs out of water. It just keeps filling up new pitchers. It's all the same water. They're all just pitchers. Okay? So, this is the only way to receive the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death. So what is the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death? Is to ultimately always have Nam-myoho Renge-kyo in your life in every lifetime. Right? So it's to attain Buddhahood in your present form, because that's how you manifest that condition ceaselessly in the future. Do you understand? Right? Okay. So that can only happen from this relationship. First, Nichiren describes how his efforts to help all people obtain the heritage led to many persecutions. He then tells Sairenbo about the profound karmic ties they share in light of the difficult circumstances under which Sairenbo became Nichiren's disciple. Okay, do you understand? So again, it had to accompany these difficulties. We always encounter obstacles. It's part of the gig. You find people that chant and practice that have nothing going on that requires them to validate the power of the strength of their faith and the power of the true teaching. They're not practicing the correct teaching. Okay? Nichiren says this over and over and over again. Take his word for it, is what I'm saying. All right? He says, Nichiren has been, this is a quote from the Go, Nichiren has been trying to awaken all people of Japan to faith in the Lotus Sutra so that they too can share the heritage and attain Buddhahood. This passage expresses Nichiren's essential intent behind his efforts for widespread propagation. It also explains the fundamental meaning of the heritage of the law. This understanding is the heritage of the law. Okay? This understanding is what allows you to manifest the innate Buddhahood that has been in your life, is the component of your life. It's inseparable from your life from the very beginning. This is how you reveal it. And why do you reveal it? Because you already have a relationship with it. Okay? And you already have a relationship with many others that you've taken a vow to teach it to. Okay? That's the reason. You don't become a Buddha in order to be cool. It's hard work. It's a difficult path. The only thing that would make you want to go that would be the Buddha compassion of wanting to save others. Otherwise, you've already gained the merit. You know, you're reliving that difficulty called the Sahe world voluntarily. Okay? So he says, this passage expresses Nichiren's essential intent behind his efforts for widespread propagation. It also explains the fundamental meaning of the heritage of the law. In the authentic tradition of Buddhism, the heritage of the law should be open and accessible to all people, not something kept for a select handful. That is, open to all people is the mark of a humanistic religion, a correct teaching, and the mark of a correct teacher. All right? If, on the contrary, a few individuals monopolize the heritage of the law, then it will be nothing more than a symbol of an authoritarian religion, like so many others. The Nichiren Shoshu priesthood claims that only the high priest knows some secret special teachings, and they do. That only the high priest receives the special mystic transmission of enlightenment, and that is the primary tenet of Nichiren Shoshu. That's the thing that holds the priesthood together in the monolithic manner in which it's structured. No women. Such alienating views clearly contradict Nichiren's teaching. Clearly contradict it. And he didn't set any of that up in his lifetime. No. Okay? Sairenbo willingly followed Nichiren and underwent the difficulties with it that it brought. But his faith never wavered. Nichiren praises him as a person of true wisdom, comparing him to pure gold, which can be destroyed neither by fire nor water, as opposed to iron, which is vulnerable to both. Our faith is tested when we go through hardship. Whether our faith is genuine or false is shown how we act in difficult times. Those who stand up when things are difficult or at a critical juncture in life have genuine faith. Now, what did it just say? When do we reveal our faith? How do we ever have our faith grow?
When we have difficulties.
Our faith is tested when we go through hardship. Whether our faith is genuine or false is shown by how we act in difficult times. In the absence of the difficult times, we would never have that opportunity for the test. Okay? We'd never make advance. Because it's only in the seeking process that you figure this out. Okay? We're seeking genuine faith. The type of faith that leads to actual Ichiren Sanzen, not understanding the theory of each Ichiren Sanzen, but manifesting Buddhahood as the Buddha in our present form. He says, another reason Nichiren compares Sairenbo to pure gold. Nichiren praises Sairenbo for exemplifying sincere faith as a disciple amid great difficulties. Nichiren is deeply aware of the efforts of those who fight seriously despite hardship. Okay? Another reason Nichiren compares Sairenbo to pure gold is that Sairenbo embraces the pure gold, Sairenbo embraces the gold and upholds the great teaching of the Lotus Sutra. And of course, in the latter day of the law, it's the teaching of Nichiren and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. If the law that one embraces is supreme, then the person who embraces it must accordingly be foremost among all others. Okay? Quote from WND's page 61. Buddhism teaches that people's true worth is determined by the depth of the teaching or philosophy that they uphold, not by their wealth or social status. Those who uphold the great mystic law and fight for Kosen Rufu are the most worthy of respect. So what did he just say your self-image should be of? If you perceive yourself as a bodhisattva of the earth, then you understand difficulties don't occur to you because of bad karma or because of slander. They occur to you because you have been born to be a teacher and you're a living example of the teaching that Nichiren has left and said is the correct teaching for the latter day. If you didn't live that way, how could there be any link between what he said and left for posterity and your life as a continuum of that example, which is supposed to inspire others in your time zone, in your time realm? Do you understand? We don't live in 12th century Japan anymore. This has made the big leap to the rest of the world. In the process, it's now touched on all kinds of cultures that Nichiren never had to deal with. Okay? That there has to be natural interpreters of Nichiren's teaching that arise in all those cultures to understand Nichiren's teaching correctly and give it form and substance in the cultures that they're propagating it to. Do you understand? All right, so we couldn't all be cookie cutter. Could never work that way. We would never be able to achieve Kosen Rufu if we weren't all different. All right? But the underlying teaching is exactly the same for all of us. And it really boils down ultimately to realize the fact that the Gohonzon and Nichiren are inseparable. To develop a personal relationship with Nichiren Daishonin himself. Okay? As a disciple. He says, because what is he saying about you? If the law that one embraces is supreme, then the person who embraces it must accordingly be foremost among all others.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, what?
True.
He's saying you're equal to the Gohonzon. Your life is just as capable as mine. He isn't saying acquiesce to me, right? He's saying the teaching that you utilize in your daily life, the teaching that you believe in without doubt, okay, will reflect this. All right? Next, Nichiren quotes two passages from the Lotus Sutra's 23rd chapter, the former affairs of the Bodhisattva Medicine King. The first passage expounds the greatness of the mystic law, and the second passage expresses the greatness of the fortune who uphold it. In the second passage, fire represents earthly desires and water the sufferings in life. It clarifies that those who embrace the Gohonzon and seriously chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo will develop an indestructible state of life undaunted by worries or suffering. So what did that just say? It clarifies that those who embrace the Gohonzon and seriously chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, he doesn't just say and chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So what's seriously? With a seeking spirit, trying to, find Buddhahood within your own life. All right? It clarifies that those who embrace the Gohonzon and seriously chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo seriously is to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as a bodhisattva of the earth, to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as an emissary of the original teacher, okay? As someone who's striving in the 9 worlds, in their own little humble existence, to somehow help in this process of the establishment of the correct teaching in the latter day. Kosen Rufu. That's seriously chanting. When you're chanting for Kosen Rufu about your mission as a bodhisattva of the earth, that's as correct a daimoku as you can chant. Okay? But we don't normally chant that way. Okay? It normally takes difficulties before we start getting to a depth of prayer and start seeing our mind, observing our mind, okay, in that deep and correct way. Okay? But we must also understand that there is nothing lesser about us that means that we have no capacity to reach that state. And we must aspire toward achieving that state, because that's the reason you practice in the first place. It's not to get a better job, a car, or benefits in the way that we normally start practicing to achieve and to gain benefit, right? So he's saying, undaunted. He says, okay, it clarifies that those who embrace the Gohonzon and seriously chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo will develop an indestructible state of life that is undaunted by worries or suffering. So what does undaunted mean? It doesn't mean that they're not there. They have no effect on you. That's undaunted.
Yeah.
Unaffected. Unaffected by worries or suffering. So we may have worries from time to time. They may not be pleasant. They may feel like suffering. But as long as we're living our life in the correct manner, they'll never stop us. This is the point. Not to be able to be stopped. In the long course of life, there are good times and bad times. When we face hardship, at those points in time the page flipped and we don't know why, what the hell, the light just went out. Okay? In the course of life, there are good times and bad times. When we face hardship, if we earnestly pray to the Gohonzon, we can overcome any obstacle. It is important to develop strong confidence and continually challenge life's difficulties. Okay? So now what's the importance of that paragraph? In the long course of life, there are good times and bad times. That's for everybody, right? Pretty much. When we face hardship, okay, as bodhisattvas of the earth, if we earnestly pray to the Gohonzon, we can overcome any obstacle. So part of this is having the faith that that's the deal. That the only thing separating between resolution and where I'm at this moment is my effort, never ceasing until I win. I never give up. To give up is to concede defeat. Okay? The function of the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils is to beat that relentless sense of I'll never give up out of you. Okay? The Buddha has already beat that out of himself. He doesn't worry, he can't be affected by the 3 obstacles or the 4 devils. He's at a place he's not, he knows what to do. What does the Buddha do? Goes back and communicates with the original teacher. That's the whole point. This is all going to get into the Gohonzon and Nichiren are not separate. Okay? So he says, Nichiren next acknowledges, on page 42, first full paragraph, Nichiren next acknowledges that Sairenbo had become his disciple during the great ordeal of the Sado exile because of their profound karmic ties formed in the past. So remember what, I didn't know that it was going to say this, but remember I talked about what's the best thing that ever happened to Sairenbo? This lecture just said, getting exiled to Sado Island was the best thing that ever happened to him. Okay? Nichiren next acknowledges that Sairenbo had become his disciple during the great ordeal of the Sado exile because of their profound karmic ties formed in the past. If Sairenbo hadn't been there at that time to witness what he witnessed with Nichiren defeating all those people, where the people of Kamakura and all the other places Nichiren had been, were they able to see what he did at that great debate? No. Okay? If Sairenbo hadn't become his disciple, would he have ever asked the questions that Nichiren wrote him these goshos about? How would they have been revealed to us? You know, because Sairenbo was somebody that was deep enough and heavy enough that he could say all this really deep, heavy stuff too. And it's there for us to now perceive and receive. All right? So he says, he then describes his encounter with Sairenbo through this passage from this Lotus Sutra 7th chapter, Parable of the Phantom City. Those persons who had heard the law, what's it say? Those persons who had heard the law, right? So they weren't there. They'd heard the law. They've already awakened the bodhisattva of the earth aspect. Do you understand?
Yes.
They're not people to be awakened to. Those persons who had heard the law dwelled here and there in various Buddha lands. What's a Buddha land? An environment in which we can exist as a functioning karmic influence, a temporary gathering of 5 components, right? Constantly reborn in company with their teachers. Okay? So, my teachers, all right, are your teachers. You will become someone else's teachers. I will become a teacher to them also because of the influence that I might have had on you. There is a continuous flow of this. There is no separation in bodily form of this wisdom. Do you understand? It flows between teacher and disciple, and the disciple becomes the teacher and then awakens and, on and on and on. But there's a constant manifestation of people in the cycle of birth, death, birth, sickness, old aging, and death, right? Going through the cycle of life. He says, this well-known sutra passage shows through the example of Shakyamuni and his disciples that the bond between mentor and disciple extends throughout past, present, and future. The Buddha as a teacher and his disciples are always born together to practice Buddhism. All right? This applies not only to Sairenbo, but also to all of us SGI members. Because of our profound karmic ties formed in the past, to one another, to whoever flips our switch and teaches us and hits the go button. All right? Because of our profound karmic ties in the past, we have encountered the Gohonzon in this lifetime and are striving for worldwide propagation together. There's lots of other people that heard Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Not all of them practice the way this is describing to practice. But if you want to achieve actual Ichiren and Sanzen, this is the only way you can do it. Straight up. Okay? Our mentor, because he's been talking about, what was the title of this? Great compassion to save all living beings and the karmic ties between mentor and disciple. And mentor really means a teacher, right? The disciple is somebody that's a student or listening to every single word. But a mentor is more than a teacher. A mentor actually shares life experience. It's actually to bring that person up to the same level as them, not to teach them something they're going on to another teacher. Do you understand? So he's saying, our mentor is the original Buddha, Nichiren Daishonin. So when we talk about mentor, if I'm being a mentor, it's the aspect of my life that's Nichiren Daishonin that's coming forth. When you are being the mentor, it's the aspect of the original state. Do you understand? This is what the original teacher shared with all others to make them equal to himself. That's why we are equal to him. We're not inferior to him. This is not, the original teacher is not a godlike entity. Understand? Okay, so he says, our mentor is the original Buddha, not Daisaku Ikeda. All right, Daisaku Ikeda is our mentor, but the mentor we're talking about here is Nichiren. To be constantly reborn in company with Nichiren is to embrace the Gohonzon, because how does Nichiren exist in the Sahe world continuously? Through our life, but through our embracing of the object of devotion in the right time period. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, so our mentor is the original Buddha, Nichiren Daishonin. To be constantly reborn in company with Nichiren is to embrace the Gohonzon, which he inscribed as the embodiment of his enlightened life, and to practice faith. And to practice faith. Okay, what does that mean? What is to practice faith? To practice exactly as Nichiren instructed you to. When he says that there's no separation, when he says all this stuff he says, you don't, it's not like, that sounds good. It's like you view your life exactly that way. Not like, oh, I can kind of see how that applies to me. No. You look at yourself as the mentor. You have to, or you'll never become the mentor. You'll always be looking for somebody else to teach you something else, because you're not learning for any other reason but yourself. If you see yourself and perceive yourself as the mentor, then you understand, I got a job to do.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to try to figure some of this stuff out and form factor it out so that other people can understand it. Why will they be there? Because I'm the one that has a relationship with them to create and to qualify and help them with that clarity. Okay? And they're going to use that clarity to help people that have no relationship with me. All right? So don't look at it as top down. Okay? It's really equal in its deepest sense.
Yes.
All right? So, to embrace the Gohonzon and carry out faith as taught by Nichiren is equivalent to living in company with him. Also, in terms of our present struggle for worldwide propagation, our members are the three founding Soka Gakkai presidents who dedicated, pardon me. Also, in terms of our present struggle for worldwide propagation, our mentors are the three founding Soka Gakkai presidents who dedicated their lives to the spread of Nichiren Buddhism and who taught us faith and the mission of Kosen Rufu, for Kosen Rufu. Does everybody understand that? Because that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's not until then that people started doing this as common mortals,
Right.
non-priests. All of us are comrades from the infinite past. Now, at this time of worldwide propagation, we are creating a global Buddhist community called the SGI under the guidance of the three founding presidents. We have this mission to promote Kosen Rufu together because of our profound karmic ties. So there's nobody watching this video that doesn't have a relationship with not only Buddhism, but with me, but also with everybody at this table. Okay? Why do we do this thing on Wednesdays? Why?
We get
Carry on studying.
Yeah, you want to study, but why do you want to study?
So we can teach the others.
So you can teach the others. Why do I do this every Wednesday? So that what I was so fortunate to learn from, very rare fortune to know the people that I knew. Like I said in that thing from the one that we have, that's Soka philosophy. You know, the people that I learned from were not diluted. Okay? They were very hardcore people. They sounded like you were talking to Josei Toda. Okay? That's the way they spoke to you. And they didn't put up with any shit.
Right.
Okay? So, I'm not saying this exactly as they said it to me. Because I can't. It's not the way. But I am saying exactly what they said to me. Alright? Alright, so. Goes on with continuing the lecture. Blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth. Because who is it that experiences this karmic thing that I just discussed? The original disciples of the original teacher. The bodhisattvas of the earth. Okay? How admirable that you have asked about the transmission of the ultimate law of life and death. I have never heard of anyone who has asked such a question. I have answered in complete detail in this letter, so please take it to heart. The important point is to carry out your practice confident, that means faith, have complete and absolute faith, that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo alone is the heritage that was transferred from Shakyamuni and many treasures to Bodhisattva's superior practices. The function of life is to burn and give light. The function of water is to wash away filth. The winds blow away dust and breathe life into plants, animals, and human beings. The earth produces the grasses and trees, and heaven provides nourishing moisture. The 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo are also like that. They are the cluster of blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity. The Lotus Sutra says that Bodhisattva superior practices will appear now in the latter day to propagate this teaching. But has this happened? Whether or not Bodhisattva superior practice has appeared in this world, Nichiren has already made a start in propagating this teaching. Top of page 45. Nichiren praises Sairinbo for asking his question about the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death, saying, I have never heard of anyone who has asked such a question. He then summarizes his answer by stating that one should practice Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the heritage that was transferred from Shakyamuni and many treasures to Bodhisattva superior practices. He calls Myoho Renge-kyo the cluster of blessings brought by the Bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the essential law that enables all living beings to bring forth their inherent Buddhahood. All Buddhas, including Shakyamuni and many treasures, manifested their Buddhahood through Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, no matter how many times it's said Myoho Renge-kyo. To propagate Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the mission of the Bodhisattva superior practices. For this reason, Nichiren is encouraging Sairinbo to exert himself in Buddhist practice with the conviction that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which Bodhisattva superior practices, that is, Nichiren Daishonin, propagates, is the way to absolute happiness. This may be regarded as his admonition that one should not seek the way to absolute happiness anywhere other than Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Does everybody understand what he did there? He says, if it's too hard for you to get your head around who I am, Nichiren's saying, then let's just call me Bodhisattva superior practices, because that's how I'm functioning right now. Okay? So, next, everybody understands that paragraph, right? Exert himself in practice with the conviction that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the only way to achieve this enlightened state that's being discussed. This heritage of the ultimate law of life and death. Don't dilute it with anything else, he's warning him without saying it in the form of a warning. All right? Next, Nichiren explains the blessings brought by the Bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity, through the various functions of the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, wind, and space, which were regarded as the 5 constituents of all things in the universe. The universal elements all have their own functions. Everything in the universe supports everything else. Right? Okay. Nothing, that's the law of physics, right? That's the whole thing we were talking about before. Everything in the universe supports everything else. Nothing functions on its own. All right? Nothing in the universe is meaningless. The entire universe has the function to nurture life. The function of compassion. The function of fire is to burn and give light. The element of fire consumes things with heat and gives off light. This is fire's innate function with which it benefits all things. The function of water is to wash away filth. Cleansing is the innate function of water. Purifying, right? Taking off delusion, getting to the core of the original state. The winds blow away dust and breathe life into plants, animals, and human beings. In light of the ancient concept of wind as the cosmic breath of life, Nichiren explains that wind's innate function is to give life. The earth produces the grasses and trees. Innate in the earth is the function to produce plants. Heaven provides moisture, nourishing moisture. Here, heaven means the element of space. Nietzsche explains that space nourishes life through rain. After explaining the innate functions of the 5 elements, Nietzsche states, the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo are like that. Okay, they're the constituents of all the essentials that you see them as. They are the cluster of blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the Buddha in his true identity. They encompass all things. The innate function of the universe is that of compassion, and this is the essential function of Myoho Renge-kyo. The essential aspect of this cluster of blessings brought by the bodhisattvas of the earth is to manifest compassion through character and behavior and to live as living examples. The blessings that the bodhisattvas of the earth bring to all others are the manifestations of life's innate compassion. In the record of the orally transmitted teachings, Nichiren also explains that the elements of earth, water, fire, and wind correspond to the blessings brought by the 4 leaders of the bodhisattvas of the earth. The following is based on his explanations of that correspondence. Bodhisattva superior practices symbolizes the supreme bodhisattva practice of burning earthly desires and, with the light thus gained, illuminating the darkness of people's suffering. For this reason, the function of bodhisattva superior practices corresponds to the element of fire. Corresponds to that of the element of fire. Bodhisattva pure practices symbolizes the purification of life. The function of bodhisattva pure practices corresponds to that of the element of water. Bodhisattva boundless practices represents the unlimited potential of life to overcome all obstacles. Now, what did that just say? Unlimited potential of life to overcome all obstacles. Therefore, the function of bodhisattva boundless practices corresponds to that of the element of wind, as it removes dust and is free of any constraints. Bodhisattva firmly established practices exemplifies the Buddhist practice of bringing about security and stability. The function of bodhisattva firmly established practices corresponds to that of the element of earth, as it nurtures and brings stability to life. The element of space or heaven is symbolic of the function of compassion inherent in the whole universe. As the skies bring nourishing rain to all living beings, Myoho Renge-kyo has the function to benefit all things. Of course, the functions of the other 4 elements are also inherent in the essential cosmic law of Myoho Renge-kyo. Next, top of page 48. Next, Nichiren discusses the appearance in the latter day of Bodhisattva superior practices who benefits all living beings through the mystic law writing. The Lotus Sutra says that Bodhisattva superior practices will appear now in the latter day of the law to propagate this teaching. But has this happened? Whether or not Bodhisattva superior practices has appeared in this world, Nichiren has already made a start in propagating this teaching. In this passage, he indirectly suggests that, in terms of his behavior, he is the reappearance in this world of Bodhisattva superior practices. But as importantly, the Lotus Sutra prophesizes the appearance of Bodhisattva superior practices as the leader of the Bodhisattvas of the earth in the latter day of the law. Therefore, if Bodhisattva superior practices did not appear in the latter day, the Lotus Sutra would prove false. Okay? Nichiren has already made a start at propagating this teaching. Nichiren had begun the mission of Bodhisattva superior practices to reveal Myoho Renge-kyo as the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death and to propagate it widely. By continuing to carry on the task of Bodhisattva superior practices, his life then signified that Bodhisattva's appearance. Everybody, that's clear, right? Okay? And we've made our advent for the very same reason. All right? It's already delineated as what's going to occur in accord with the correct teaching being propagated. Okay, so going on to page 49. the heritage of faith. And then we're pretty much almost done.
Yeah.
Be resolved to summon forth the great power of faith and chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo with the prayer that your faith will be steadfast and correct at the moment of death. Never seek any other way to inherit the ultimate law of life and death and manifest it in your life. Only then will you realize that earthly desires are enlightenment and the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. Even embracing the Lotus Sutra would be useless without the heritage of faith. I will go into particulars again on another occasion. With my deep respect, Nichiren, the Shramana of Japan, the 11th day of the 2nd month of the 9th year of Bunei, cyclical sign Minuzo Esaru, reply to the Honorable Sairenbo. I want to read that again. Be resolved to summon forth the great power of faith. So what is he qualifying that there though? When we're able to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and actually see a manifestation in the 9 worlds, things change. Our prayer was answered. Okay? What answered that prayer? What made that occur? And why did it occur? Your faith. Now, what is your faith in what, though? Your faith in the correct teaching. That's why you're chanting, right?
Right.
It's the only reason you're doing the things that take you on the path to do the correct things is you're ascribing to the conditions, the circumstance, the teaching of the original teacher. You've come to fill your space again as the original disciple, manifesting the benefit, fortune, clarity to express his teaching in the Sahe world. Okay, do you understand? So he's saying, the power of faith is everything. That's where the power of the Gohonzon comes from. Because the power of your faith is exactly what's reflected back in your life when you chant Daimoku. Weak faith, weak power. Strong faith, strong power. Buddha faith, Buddha power. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay? That's why it's so important that you not just view all this as some sort of theoretical thing that doesn't really matter as long as you chant and you get benefits. Okay? Because you'll never be able to take people beyond the baby stage to explain what's really happening in their life over the course of a 20 or 30 or 40 year arc. Okay? Unless you grew up yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really the whole function here, is to take you to the point that you become the mentor. The original mentor wants nothing more than for you to be the original mentor. Do you think if you're the original disciple of the original mentor, by now you're not capable of being a mentor? Okay? I mean, really. This is kindergarten shit. Really. It is. All right? Bottom of page 49. There's no separation between you and Nichiren Daishonin. When you are in front of the Gohonzon chanting Daimoku, I keep trying to explain this. This is what Mr. Matsuoka taught me. I'm in front of Nichiren Daishonin. I'm like rapping with my original mentor. I mean, I don't know for sure what he looks like. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the Gohonzon. But I'm sitting in front of Nichiren Daishonin, and I'm having a direct communication with my enlightened state. There's no separation between Nichiren Daishonin and my enlightened state. So I'm not being spooky, weird, stupid by having that kind of concept as I'm utilizing it for the sake of my 9-world humanity. Okay? Instead of talking to myself, I'm talking to myself, but I'm not talking to myself. Because myself doesn't talk like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? When I'm tapped into the Gohonzon, I'm speaking. What's coming back to me it's me, but it's on the deepest level of me. Okay? And how can I find that me inside of me? That's the Nichiren Daishonin that exists in my life. Yeah. When we just read last week, exist within your life, that's when that manifests as reality. No separation. You and the Gohonzon are the same thing. Your life and Nichiren Daishonin's life are the same thing. You were both born in this world for the same reason. One preceded the other because one's the original teacher. You're the original disciple. Jesus, that's heavy shit. Okay? Seriously. You have to perceive it on that level, though, if you're ever going to get the benefit of that understanding. As long as it's going, whoa, that was cool. You're not perceiving it on the level of responsibility that goes hand in hand with it then. Because when we talk about being a mentor, what does that mean? That means you've decided to devote your life to carry on and give to somebody else what you've gained through pain and suffering and effort. You're happily here, freebie, man, freebie. Because they don't get nobody gets freebies. They're going to take that freebie and turn it into more wisdom for the type of people that they're going to encourage and the time that they're going to encourage them. Going on page 49. The heritage of the ultimate life, the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death is essentially the heritage of faith. Nichiren concludes this letter by urging Sairenbo to summon forth the great power of faith and chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, stressing that there is no other way to receive the heritage of the law. Okay? When he writes summon forth the great power of faith, he indicates that it is important to develop strong confidence that all people can receive the heritage through chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and by doing so have all their prayers answered. Okay? So what is this then again? What is this faith? What is this faith? What is this the faith of? That no prayer goes unanswered. No prayer goes unanswered. That there's nothing in your life that you don't have the power to affect. Okay? Because is your life from the time you were born till the time you died?
No.
No? No. Your life, the life we're talking about, is the one that's virtually eternal. Okay? So, we're talking about what you need to resolve in this lifetime. Why do you have those issues in this lifetime?
Any difficulties?
Because you encounter that. No, these are things that either are going to serve as a spearhead for you to teach others. You've asked for them. Okay, you've asked for them to occur. You didn't create bad karma or you want the things that will allow you to teach. Okay, and fulfill your mission. Or there might be some aspects that you need to advance further. Okay? It's only through them manifesting in your life that you get the opportunity to do that. All right? So the key is that your prayers being answered. For instance, I'll give you the quick example I give in my life. All right? Everybody knows who's sitting to my left here. All right? All right. When we first met, she basically told me, you keep trying to shakabuku me. All you'll ever have to do is convince me to marry you, because in my culture, wives always take on the husband's religion. So if you want me to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, just, convince me, to marry you. And she left it at that. It was like, and to convince her to marry me wasn't ever going to happen. All right? So I actually chanted all the time about wanting to be married to this person. A lot. And couldn't. I wasn't good enough. I didn't deserve it. Okay? And then the Gohonzon said, you're right. Very clearly to me. You're right. Why would she deserve you the way you behave right now? Okay? So I made the determination then, once I created the clarity for myself to understand that this isn't an impossibility. It's just that I haven't done the things necessary to make it happen. Okay, so I'm going to change who I am now. She lives thousands of miles away. She doesn't know who I am anymore, hardly. I'm going to go ahead and make the changes now, and I will chant to get rid of all this karma I've created in this life that creates this terrible sadness because I can't be with the person I want to be. Okay, and I'll change it so that in the next lifetime, she doesn't know what's sneaking up on her. See, I'll be able to just grab it. So I actually chanted to be able to be with her in my next life. By getting this life sorted out, I would manifest the fortune to be able to be with her in my next lifetime. Well, I chanted that way, and then one day she called me up and said, "You still want to marry me?" I mean, that's the way that went down. But it was because I didn't think about this lifetime as being the limitation of the time frame. Because if you had said from the very beginning, oh, can you ever convince her to want to marry you? No, I would have never. That's an impossibility. I mean, it's not. She's not really practicing. It's not. It's like, why would she decide to marry? I don't know. Why would she make the phone call that she ultimately did? I know. I know exactly why. That's what I'm trying to explain to you here. You have to have that kind of faith. When you have the bodacious faith to pray for anything without qualifying whether it's realistic, whether it can happen, whether you can make, when you think you're Nichiren Daishonin, when you pray with the same mind as Nichiren, when you put nothing, when you're on your way to Tatsunokuchi, and you're flipping off Hachiman saying, better get your shit together and protect me, bro. Because if not, you're up the creek without a paddle. That's the attitude. That's the attitude. Okay? So, and by doing so, have all their prayers answered. So this isn't about deprivation or suffering or putting up with not being the way you want it to be. And just having continuous faith while you suffer day by day by day. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about resolving these issues over and over and over again, and then they'll remanifest as some other thing. But you're constantly living as an example.
Yes.
Steadfast and correct faith at the moment of death. This means maintaining, page 50, this means maintaining a stable, correct state of mind at death, not allowing death to disturb one's state of mind. Our continual efforts, and this is the way you get to that point. It's not by suddenly becoming capable at the end of your life. You've been given 2 weeks to live, and now you suddenly got religion, or now you're, no. This is from this moment. Not allowing death to disturb one's state of mind, our continued efforts to establish such faith until the last moment of our lives are in and of themselves the attainment of Buddhahood in this lifetime. Because those actions will carry on into your next lifetime. You will meet Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. You're back on the Bodhisattva of the earth path. The state of complete satisfaction without any regrets, filled with supreme joy because one has maintained solid faith throughout. This is the meaning of steadfast and correct faith at the moment of death. In one sense, the purpose of faith is to adorn the last moment of life with the satisfaction of having achieved a splendid victory in life. It is of utmost importance to exert oneself each day in faith and practice with the profound insight that now is the last moment of one's life. It gets easier when you get old. The natural consequence of such effort is steadfast and correct faith at the moment of death. Those who carry through with faith until the last moment are true victors in life. There is no other way to obtain the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death. And what did that just say? You cannot retire.
To the end.
Yes, no retirement. No retirement. You caught it? Yeah, we're closer. Yeah, we're closer to the end than the beginning, you and me. So, yes, this is very, very clear, right? All right, so when we develop strong faith, our lives as ordinary people manifest as the entity of Myoho Renge-kyo, and all our sufferings and worries are transformed into enlightenment. This is why Nichiren writes, only then will you realize that earthly desires are enlightenment and that the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. You look back and you realize that all the things that helped you transform in the direction and manner in which you desired to all began with difficulties and circumstances that made you seek to find a solution, a resolution to that. You would have never gone down that path without those things that created the circumstance that propelled you.
Yes.
All right? And that's why, having achieved the gift of continuous faith, you can never give up. You got to grow until the last moment of your life, according to President Kate, and I agree with him. When we develop strong faith, our lives as ordinary people manifest as the entity of Myoho Renge-kyo, and all of our suffering and worries are transformed into enlightenment. This is why Nichiren writes, only then will you realize that earthly desires are enlightenment, and that the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. Earthly desires are enlightenment. This means that all sufferings in life are transformed into enlightenment through the power of the mystic law. The sufferings of birth and death are nirvana, means that the agonies of birth and death, the chain of causation from delusion to suffering, are transformed into enlightenment. Suffering will not change into enlightenment automatically, however.
Right.
We don't, we don't seek it, we just stay on the merry-go-round.
Right.
We don't try to get off the merry-go-round, we'll just stay on the merry-go-round. Suffering will not change into enlightenment automatically, however. If we do nothing, earthly desires merely remain that. But when we chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with strong faith in the Gohonzon and challenge our obstacles head on, we can immediately transcend our sufferings and expand our life condition. Nichiren concludes this letter by admonishing Sairenbo, even embracing the Lotus Sutra would be useless without the heritage of faith. The heritage of faith, again, means one's faith directly connected to the original Buddha, Nichiren Daishonin, who lived the Lotus Sutra and revealed the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death as Nichiren, as Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and propagated it widely. So this is your personal relationship with the Gohonzon that was just described there. So you say, okay, it's useless unless you have that personal relationship with the Gohonzon. If you keep thinking the Gohonzon is a fairy tale piece of paper that somehow is listening to you and that there's some other realm besides this, again, all the things that are so easy to be confused about, that's not what this is talking about. This is you, because you're the same as all those other things that you think are greater than you. You. Through this faith, the life of the original Buddha manifests within our own life. Okay? That's why you can be such a badass. There is no other way for the people of the latter day to attain Buddhahood other than to manifest the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one aspect of their original state. Do you understand? All right, so the Gohonzon's powers of the Buddha and the law will also be revealed through faith. But the Gohonzon will be useless without faith. As Nichiren explains, in the real aspect of the Gohonzon, he writes, never seek this Gohonzon outside yourself. The Gohonzon exists only within the mortal flesh of us ordinary people who embrace the Lotus Sutra and chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. This Gohonzon also is found only in the two characters for faith. You are the Buddha exactly as you are, right now. Similarly, regarding chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nichiren writes on attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime, therefore, when you chant Myoho and recite Renge, you must summon deep faith that Myoho Renge-kyo is your life itself. You are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's the end of this one. So we're in for tonight. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.